We are live here on Coffee with Humans with my new friend, Charles Reed. Charles, welcome to Coffee with Humans.
Thank you, Jason. Pleasure to be here.
Well, we got talking before the broadcast, which is usually very superficial, but we are two seasoned individuals ready to go deep, and I love it. So my first question, my thought is, and this is a dialogue, by the way, so feel free to ask me questions too. I'm curious though, what inspired you to click the button to agree to have coffee with me?
Well, we're doing some promotion and some other things, but ran across yours and looked interesting. I said, hey, why not? Sounds like fun.
It sounds like fun to go live audio and video across the internet.
I do a lot of public speaking. I was very lucky. We had where I grew up in Davenport, Iowa, we had a children's theater, which was children putting on productions. Long story to how it created. But anyway, starting at the age 6, I was an actor. So I've been on stage since before I knew I should be worried about it. And that was well over 60 years ago. So
acting as a young kid, I've found, has made a huge difference in the ability to communicate a message in a compelling way.
Yes. I
think some people who get into sales think that it's I feel like a checklist of best ways to communicate, when really I think if you lay that foundation of, hey, you're on a stage, and whether you're trying to sell something just to not in a disingenuous way, but you're trying to you have something that's powerful for your community, you want to get that message across. How would you do that? It's like theater. It's part entertainment and part value creation, and that enables you to get your message across.
Acting teaches people how to get messages, feelings, emotions across to a wide audience. So yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. Anytime we're trying to sell our ideas, ourselves, our company, our business, whatever, to strangers or friends or potential clients, it's an acting job. We're trying to communicate, and acting teaches us how.
Yeah, I was sat in a audience once of, I don't know, 1,000 people or so, and the gentleman from the front of the stage was talking about this idea of sales and how many people have this kind of built-in impediment to selling, because they believe that sales comes from that idea of a disingenuous salesperson, like used car type of thing, where, hey, I gotta get you to go today. When in fact, if we turn it on its head and say, if I am holding right now something that is going to change your life, it'll revolutionize your existence, and you're just not yet aware of it, I owe it to you to understand how to communicate in such a way that it gets through the barriers that you naturally, and we all naturally, put up. And that's a gift. It's a service then to be able to communicate well and quote unquote sell, so that you now become aware of the tremendous value that could revolutionize your life in a way.
Yeah, I mean, we in our business, we think very highly of it. We think we do a fabulous job. We think we do for our clients with a great value, and so why not try and communicate that effectively? Because you can be taken advantage of by a lot of our competitors, but with us, what you see is what you get. We're pretty damn good at it. So,
That's awesome. Hey, I think you should say that. I was driving around with my daughter a couple weeks ago, and she's what were we talking about? Oh, I think we were talking about karaoke or something like that. And I make no bones about it. I love singing and pretty good at it. And she said, well, why are you going to do this live stream? It was around Christmas time. I did this live stream, and I did some singing on it. And she says, why are you going to do that? And I said, well, because I'm good at it, and people watch and they want to hear it. And she's like, oh, well, that's humble. And I said, well, wait a second. right? You've heard that
Kids,
too. And
children do that to you.
and I said, well, I told her, I said, there's a difference between knowing what you're good at and being able to walk in that. And they said, and that's simply owning your strengths, which I think we all have to own if we're going to become better at them. And I said, but that doesn't mean we're not humble about it. Not being humble would be like, I'm a good singer and I'm much better than you and you're terrible, and somehow push you down. But I think we can own our strengths. We should own our strengths.
Look, I'm living in Texas, so it's not bragging if you can walk the walk. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Back it up. Well, before the broadcast, we were talking about loss. And it was super powerful stuff we got into. And I know, and I'm connecting this with one thing that you wrote in the calendar invite when you scheduled, which was talking about surviving post-COVID. And I think that if we look at loss in general as a fundamental part of human existence, whether it's loss of relationships by choice or circumstances, or it's loss of business by choice or circumstances, we now have this idea of COVID and real loss to people, part of people's fundamental existence. What are you circling around in your head as you're looking at the landscape? Because I know you work with a lot of businesses, and I know you've been through a lot of stuff.
But yeah, and I am, and just an aside, the pandemic of 18, I lost my grandmother. So the loss in the pandemic is nothing new to me. I don't remember her, but understand. But yeah, a lot of our clients have lost business, have gone decreased business. They've lost leases. They've lost all kinds of things. It's been a disaster for millions of small businesses, and dealing with loss is a bear. It's tough. We don't like to lose. We don't like to lose things, and then to have them taken away. And many, the economy was great, and all of a sudden, bam! It just people had ramped up and got things going, and everything was going great. March comes slamming halt. Everybody stay home, close your business, go vegetate, which doesn't work. Right. You can't. You gotta. How can you not work to take care of your family and put food on the table? I mean, give me a break. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of anger at what caused this, and loss does cause anger, and you want to blame something outside, whether it be your neighbor, God, the guy driving the car, whatever. You always want to blame somebody. It's human nature. You want to make somebody responsible that you can take out your anger on. Well, it's kind of hard to take your anger out on a virus. Right. So you take it out on the governor, or you take it out on the president, or you take it out on whatever, because you want to blame somebody for something that has caused you such great pain. Taking it out of the virus doesn't work very well. Taking it out of the governor doesn't work any better. So it's one of those things you got to deal with, and it's a real tough road to hoe, particularly if you've never had to deal with loss before.
Right. Yeah, there's the kind of the foundational principles of just being human and how people deal with loss, and then there's the more pragmatic approach on top of that, which is, okay, well, what do I do? I've got this business, and now I was told to shut up shop, or like restaurants, you can have like 25% capacity or something, which is ridiculous. You can't survive like that. No. Restaurants thrive on having their place full and turning tables. So
one of my favorite restaurants in Dallas, the landlord just wouldn't work with them, and they moved. And so he's sitting now with a huge restaurant empty because he needed to make his mortgage payments, and the restaurant wasn't paying their rent. They've moved to another space and opened back up. But yeah, there's what do you do? And it's both sides. The business goes under, the landlord hurts, everybody's hurting. And how do you deal with this? And basically, a lot of us are going to have to start over. Our business was lucky. We didn't lose that many clients. A lot of our restaurants stayed in business with much reduced staff and so on, beginning to ramp back up. And a lot of people are just starting over. We're getting a lot of new businesses. A lot of people who got laid off permanently have taken their 401k or their retirement savings and said, I'm too young to retire. I've got to make a living. So whether it be painting garage floors or landscaping or new this or new that, lots of new businesses are out there, which is very exciting. Keeping the American economy down forever ain't going to work. It is going to rise.
Yeah. It's one of those things where necessity is the mother of invention. And if we're thrust into this time of necessity, we naturally create new things which are designed to alleviate the pain or get us through to something. Or some people have been thinking about launching an idea. They've had it for 20 years and all this, but they were afraid to leave the stability. And then when stability is pulled out from under you and you realize, it wasn't stable anyhow. Now it's like, well, why the hell not? Let's just try it now.
I've got to do something.
Yeah.
I've got this idea. I think it's work. I've got the funds to make it, to take a stab at it. Can't find a job anyway. So let's go for it. I'm no worse off if it fails.
Yeah.
So,
now,
there's a lot of that.
Right at the beginning of that time, I think about this arc of a person's transition for trauma or loss, because there are things that people go through where it's almost like darkness, right? So all of a sudden, like you had this light on, boop, light is off. I saw a path is no longer there. And I think, at least in my own experience, many times people stop. They're just like, and I'm going to stop. There's no forward movement. There's no sideways movement. We just stop because there's darkness everywhere. What in your experience, having been through your own personal loss, but also seeing businesses in those times of real trauma and struggle, what's your experience in that space and how do people move through it?
First of all, it takes time. You can't overnight say, I'm going to get over this. Grief doesn't work that way. There's multiple stages, and I forget them all, but you're in denial and on and on. And finally, you accept it. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks, months, years to work through that. And it's a process. And there's things you can do and books you can read that'll help you with that process. When you get to the point that you can read them, that you'll listen to them. The first stage of denial and grief is just, overwhelming. My wife died. My daughter died. My business closed. Whatever. These things. And so to expect yourself to be able to pick yourself up the next day and go out and make it work, give yourself time. It just doesn't happen overnight. Work at it every day, but don't expect miracles overnight. Expect miracles in the end. One of my favorite was one from Bill Gates. Men overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Takes time. Healing takes time. Reinventing yourself takes time. You don't go to bed one night and wake up reinvented the next day. It takes time. It takes work. It takes pain. It takes money. It takes patience. It takes everything you can think of and more.
Right. Yeah. It's the it seems that when you feel like I've got nothing left, all of a sudden you find just another well, or it's like growth or something, or more bandwidth, something kicks in. It's like, and now I got more. Oh, and I have more, and I have more.
Well, see, it's not like BUDS, basic underwater demo school for SEALs. Okay. That you got a choice. You can get up and walk away. This is buds without the out. You got to go through it. You don't have a choice. Well, your only choice is to commit suicide. And I don't recommend that under any circumstances.
Yeah.
So you're in your own buds, and you got to suck it up, baby, and do what's necessary, and do it every day, and you will get through. But there's no miracle cure. There's no fairy dust. Sorry.
So what do you say to business?
God, if I could have the fairy dust and sell it, I'd make Jeff Bezos look like a piker.
Exactly. So what do you say, or what do you see for businesses then that are working through this point of loss? I mean, government subsidies or funds kicking in, or stimulus packages or whatever, are sort of a drop in the bucket for most people's expenses. And then what do they do? What do you recommend?
Again, keep after it every day. The end of the pandemic is near. Summer, maybe. Every pandemic burns itself out. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Okay, we'd have died off a long time ago.
Good point.
So every pandemic burns itself out. The economy will recover. The government stimulus is smoke and mirrors for most of us. For some people, it's been a lifesaver, and I don't begrudge them that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But it's not a guaranteed income. It's fine. They get out another $2,000 today. How long is that good for? A month? Okay. 2 months, maybe. It's hard to live on $12,000 a year. So you got to just keep plugging away. There are jobs, there are businesses, there are things to do, places to go, things to create. There's a million ways to make money in this country. I learn new ways every day. I get new businesses in that I've never heard of. Okay, there's so many ways to make money. Have the wherewithal to be an entrepreneur. This is the country to be in. You can go into business tomorrow. Just say you're in business and start it. You don't need anything more than that. At some point, you'll need more, but start out as a sole proprietor and move forward. Just do it. Go into business. You can do it. It's literally that simple. There's some great books on it and some other things that'll help you along the way, but it's a matter of deciding, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well,
and if you decide,
that's the key.
Go ahead.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yep.
I was part of a task force or something like that where they're discussing in our region that it should be easier to start businesses. And I was thinking, that's bullshit. I think it's pretty easy to start a business. It's the trouble that even the smallest hurdle of, like, I have a question, I got to go figure out an answer. Why should that somehow be easier than it already is? Because you're going to need so much more in the tank to be able to survive, and push through some real challenges for growth or struggle. That the ease is so easy right now. If you can't go through those basic things, then I would question whether you should be an entrepreneur or start a business.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there's some businesses that you have to have licenses and training. You can't just go say, I'm going to go be a cosmetologist in Texas. You got to be licensed. Okay. And you got to have so much school and so on and so forth. But you want to be a mechanic, open a shop. You want to be a baker, start baking. My personal trainer, she comes over and beats me up 3 times a week. She's also a baker. She dog sits, and she does jams and jellies that she sells at fairs and all kinds of things. And she does all right for herself. She's busy all the time. So she's got at least, and she's a cosmetologist on top of that. So, when she finds herself a time, she finds another job, another business to put in there and fill the thing. So she's constantly busy, and she's the basic entrepreneur, and she likes doing it. And if you like that, do it. Now, if you've got to work for somebody else, there's jobs. You may not like them. I've taken jobs I didn't like in the past. Before I started my own business, when I started my own business, I got tired of working for people. I'd worked in corporate and got tired of. I realized in corporate life I was never going to get to the top. I was unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So I started business 30 years ago, 1991. But I grew up in a family business. So it was, I thought that's what you did.
Right.
And entrepreneurship is not for everybody, but it can be.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the last 6, 8, 10 years have been trying little side gigs. If you make that side gig your permanent one, if your permanent job went away. It's just, there's more ways to make money in this country than you can count.
Yeah.
So just go do it.
Well, it kind of gets,
I know it's a lot simpler for me to say it
right,
than to do it. And I went through all the trash of starting my own business and all the problems and everything else. And I wrote a book on it. But you can do it. I did it. Millions of us have done it. Okay. Jeff Bezos did it. Okay. So why not you?
Yeah. Well, that I think is the key. You talked about how you came from a family business, and so you just thought, well, that's what you do. And I've had similar questions like, well, how did you become an entrepreneur? Why, who told you could be an entrepreneur? It's like, well, I did. I always thought that, like, why couldn't you just do what you wanted to do? I thought that's what, that was a thing. I didn't know that I had to be told you should just do what you want to do. Like, okay.
I grew up from day one in a family business. Okay.
Yeah.
My father had the office in the house, had 3 secretaries. My mother worked with him. That's another thing. I thought working with you was ordinary way of doing business. And then I went into business with my spouse. That's a learning experience right there.
Not for the faint of heart.
Not for the faint of heart. The one bad habit I had to break her of.
Okay.
We'd work together all day. We'd go home. We'd have dinner. We'd get ready for bed. We'd get into bed. And then she'd have one more thing she needed to get off her chest. One more problem she needed to talk to me about. Then she'd roll over and go to sleep. And I'm sitting there till 2 a.m. sometimes, worrying about this thing she's just hit with, trying to process it.
Yeah.
So it took about a year, and I finally broke her that, and we made an agreement. After dinner, no more business.
Yeah, a little bit of patience to let the problems roll over into tomorrow, because there's always something.
There's always something.
Yeah, you never could put a pin in it, which is the advantage, I think, of not being an entrepreneur, where you tend to be able to live in a tighter box and say, this not it. I'll deal with this tomorrow, rather than just having it become part of, like, all consuming.
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to try to do that, but it's difficult. And I was on a panel here last year, and they asked me about work-life balance, and I cracked up. I said, for entrepreneurs, there is no work-life balance. There's work, okay? All day, every day, all weekend, all month, all year. You just have to pray you have a family that understands, because as a budding entrepreneur, particularly in the beginning, the first 20 years, it's all work, period.
You say the first 20 years.
Yeah. After that, hopefully it gets a little easier.
I think most people are lulled to sleep in thinking that entrepreneurship is we start something and then we go public, or we become super popular, or they miss, I think, or don't understand the intense amount of effort that it takes. Sometimes 24/7.
It does, and sure, there are the unicorns. There's the Bill Gates, the Jeff Bezos, that turn into billionaires. Jack Dorsey, Zuckerberg, so on. You can name me off 50 or 100 of those. Well, you know how many new businesses start every month in the United States? About 90,000 every month. Every month. Okay, that's 5, 6, 8, 10 million a year. Okay, and out of that, 1, 2 turn into billionaires.
Right.
God, your odds aren't really good. Now your odds
That's
are
true.
good that you can make a living and
Yeah.
support your family and do okay. I do all right, uh, but I'm not rich. God, I wish. I bought $10 on the mega the other night. I wanted to be an instant billionaire. I would have liked that. After 30 years, it'd be nice, but you know, we do okay. Uh, I pay my bills.
Yeah.
Uh, put food on the table. So but it's work.
Yeah.
And the first 20 years is tougher. It gets easier. But in the beginning, it is 24/7. You're working it all the time, every day, trying to keep customers happy, trying to get product out, services delivered, learning. It's a never-ending process. I learn more about business every day, even today.
What are your thoughts on folks who are looking to start businesses, particularly in this post-COVID timeframe? What are maybe like the top priorities to be thinking about as they're looking to launch something?
Well, first of all, you need a product or service people want. Okay.
Okay.
If they don't want it, you may be able to get it, but it's an uphill battle. The old saw about you build a better mousetrap and the world will be the path to your doorway. Forget it. Work. You got to market it, and you've got to work at it. But the biggest thing that kills entrepreneurs is cash flow. If you don't have enough cash, I don't care what happens. You're going to go out of business. You got to build up the revenue quickly, but you got to have cash to survive, and you have to have cash coming in to keep it going. You can have all the sales in the world, but if you're not collecting, and you can't pay your people or pay your product suppliers or pay your light bill, you're out of business. I have an old saw that I entrepreneurs and new people is sit down and do up a cash flow plan. All the expenses that you can possibly think of, everything. And when you get done and you know what your cash needs are for the business, double it. And you might have enough.
Yeah, I think it's Harvard Business School's law of 10 laws of business. I think the first one is never run out of cash. And I think the 10th one is also never run out of cash.
Never run out of cash. Cash flow is king.
I remember I started a business. We sold residential heating and air conditioning equipment online to consumers back in 2002. And I ended up selling that 8 years later. But during the middle of that, I ran out of cash for sure. And what saved us was the way that we paid our suppliers. So because we were an e-commerce business, we would collect cash from, within 1 to 3 days or so from credit card settlements. And then we would pay our suppliers 45 days later or so. And all of a sudden it created that float and that buffer. And so the ability to make mistakes during that time, because we're also profitable, was pretty significant as the business was growing, because that float kept increasing, because our sales were increasing and our expenses were catching up to us 45 days later, and if we were profitable as well. But then all of a sudden we misread the market at one point in time, and sales started going down. Meanwhile, our expenses had been increasing, and we didn't read it quite right. And shoot, we were underwater super fast, and weren't paying attention. We didn't know. We didn't understand the seasonality of the market.
That's if you don't understand your marketplace and what's going on and what's going to happen, and plan for it, that's like driving over the bridge not realizing it's out in the middle. It will come as a major surprise.
Yeah, and that to our benefit, that business, because because as soon as you could cut expenses, you had cash. You had cash within a day, because people keep buying stuff online. We were able to turn that around pretty quickly, but it really did take going back and really cutting off major parts of our expense structure.
Yep.
And we took it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of thing.
it's real easy when things are going well to spend money.
Yeah.
It's real easy to nicer offices, nicer car, nicer furniture, secretary, nicer car, all that kind of stuff. And then when it turns, as yours did, you've got to be willing to go, whoop. And sometimes, you've got that nicer office. Well, the landlord isn't going to say, okay, you had a downturn, you can cut your rent by half. No.
Right.
Sorry. So you've got to be parsimonious on all those things as you grow to make sure that you're building reserves when the bad times happen, and they are going to happen. There will be downturns. There will be market corrections. There will be pandemics. There will be all kinds of, and if you're not ready to withstand them, you won't.
Right. There has to be some sort of built-in resilience, and that resilience has to be planned for in businesses. Resilience personally tends to build over time with the ups and downs. But I think in business, it has to be a little more structured. Things have to be put into place. You can't just be like, well, we'll just kind of roll with it. There are better ways to do it than to just, roll with it.
Plan, please. Be prepared. Be a Boy Scout. Be prepared.
Now, do you consult with businesses regularly?
All the time.
Yeah.
That's when we started. Now I'm now basically a payroll company, providing small and medium businesses with payroll services around the country, and an author. But real quick.
Yeah.
The Payroll Book, my new book. Okay, we wrote the book on payroll. But when I started out, I'm a CPA.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our business was doing accounting and bookkeeping for small businesses and their payroll and consulting with them. So that was my job for most of the last 30 years, is working with small businesses and helping them. And so I learned a lot of businesses, a lot of people, a lot of things over the last 30 years. That's why, cash flow is so important in my opinion, because I've seen it destroy businesses, the lack thereof. So yeah, I've consulted with small businesses heavily for 30 years and had a lot of fun. Good people.
Yeah. And you also have a pretty storied background in terms of the things that you've been involved in.
Look, it's in my resume someplace. Yeah, I've been in dozens of jails. I used to build them. Okay. I was controller for Southern Steel. We did half the steel jail work in the country. So I've done a lot of things and had a lot of fun doing it. High tech, low tech, bending metal, importing, wholesaling, retail. Hell, I used to work for an aluminum siding company. So, I've done all kinds of things in my life and had a great time doing it.
Yeah. And so you're a CPA, an author, ex-military, you used to build jails.
Marine.
Okay. There you go. Sorry.
Marine. Yeah.
Ex-Marine. And then you've gone further then into your CPA work,
right?
Into working with the IRS somehow.
The last 3 years, I've been IRS Advisory Council,
okay,
IRSAT, and there's about 25 of us, and we go to DC 5 times a year and consult with the IRS in various areas. There's multiple groups, and I normally deal with small business, wage investment, forms, procedures, policies, things to make tax collection work, not work, all this kind of stuff. It's been fascinating. All the commissioners of the various divisions. I've had lunch with Chuck Reddick a couple of times. He's the commissioner. Nice guy. For a lawyer, he's a nice guy. That allows me to do my job better because I've learned a lot more about the workings of the Internal Revenue Service and the people. We had a client. We were fighting a penalty. It took 9 years to get it fixed. I finally called the deputy chief of appeals and said, I can't get so-and-so to return my calls after a year. She said, let me check in that. He called me that afternoon. We solved the problem. 3 months later, the client got a $400 rebate. And the $95,000 penalty went away.
Wow.
But we knew who to talk to. So that sometimes not what you know, it's who you know. So,
a lot of times.
A lot of times, and with the IRS, solving a problem with the IRS is a whole series of no's followed by a single yes. And when you get that yes, say thank you and get the hell out of there. Don't keep talking. So you just keep after it. And sooner or later, hopefully you'll find somebody that's reasonable and says, that makes sense. Okay, we'll go ahead and abate that penalty. I'm good at it. And then I'm a US Tax Court Practitioner, which allows me to represent my clients in tax court without being an attorney. There's about 200 of us in the country. And if we get a real problem, I can file a petition with tax court for $60, and that takes it to a whole different level. The first thing it does, it goes back to docket. It's a IRS lawyer to look at it and say, do we really want to take this to court? 95% of all U.S. tax court cases get settled before court. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's something we can do for our clients that most companies can't. It's kind of, that compliance expertise is what makes us unique. Right.
And those are the things that, folks get into later on. It's not.
I was 65 when my US TCP. It's never too late. I'm actually thinking about going back to law school.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
My old alma mater has opened one up in Dallas, and I've been talking to him.
Yeah. Well, you're a very driven guy, it seems. Would you agree with that assessment?
Oh, absolutely. I tell my staff that one of these days they'll find me at my desk dead, and just call the coroner and have them come get the body. Okay. Retirement to me is, having lost my wife a few years ago, there's just no reason to retire. I'm just going to keep working, and I enjoy it. I enjoy getting up every morning and coming to work. I enjoy my staff. I enjoy my clients. I enjoy the business. Why would I want to quit? I don't have to. They can't throw me at 65, or they would have 7 years ago.
That's great. Well, and you've got also a writing streak in you to be able to crank out some books. That's a hard task, I've found, to really get your thoughts out in a way that's worthy of a book.
Well, this one is 30 distilled down into 90,000 words. It took 2 years, literally. 2 years. You're right. Writing is not simple. I mean, these guys that churn them out, every 3 or 4 months. Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Okay. George Wood turns out 1.5 a year or something. Weighty tomes, and Thomas Sowell and other people. They got these books on a regular basis. And I'm going, wow. I have 2 years into this, and I'm not ready to start my next one yet.
Totally. I've been thinking about books constantly. I started writing one like in 2011 or something like that. And I got like 3 chapters in, and I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then I kicked that can down the road. And then I started writing another one last year, or maybe 2019, I can't remember. And I got probably about 2 chapters into that, and I was like, I don't think I know anything. And then nobody cares what I'm saying. And then I might have another one sort of birthing right now, but that seems to be for a lot of people the first hurdle, which is I've got something to say, and then go, but nobody really cares.
Well, and it's tough because it's not like public speaking. You're not looking at them and seeing the smiles of the phones. Okay. Yeah. You're doing this at a distance, and you're selling it You don't know what they think. We're up to, I think, 46 reviews, all 5-star except 2, which are 4-star. We're pleased with that. So we're getting some good response from it, and sales are going up. We're never going to get rich off of the sales. And the point of the book for me was not to make money off the book. The point was to get clients. It's my card. I keep a box of them in my trunk, and I hand them out. Okay, I hand them out at restaurants. I hand them out at small shops. I hand them out everywhere. And I picked up one, and I haven't done it yet. A suggestion. It's called shop gifting. Take 4, and when you're at the airport, go to the bookstore and put them on the shelf, and leave. I mean, the price is on it. He'll take it to the counter, and the guy will ring it up for him.
Oh my God. That's a great idea. I never would have thought of that.
I hadn't either. You told me that, and I went, wow, I'm going to try that. Next time I go to an airport, I'm going to take a few extras with me.
I like your way of getting clients too. It's like you'd be like, hey, you know what? You could read this 90,000 word tome, or you could just pay us to do it.
Well, that's the point, is once you've read, Jesus, there's more to this than I ever imagined. God, it's so much cheaper to just let Charles do it. Absolutely.
Right? That's a great idea. Yeah. Well, what are the topics, the big topics that are on your mind for this coming year? What are you working towards?
Growth. We're actively seeking new clients. It's been a good year so far. We had more new clients at the first of the year than we've ever had. A lot of them small, but that's okay. I like small clients. We don't go after the big guys. There's too much competition and too much pain. I much prefer the guy that has 4 employees. I love those people. Okay, the lawyer, the doctor, the dog groomer, whatever. It doesn't matter. I like small business. They're easy to work with, and once we get them on board, they just keep processing every 2 weeks forever. We don't lose clients to speak of. Knock on wood. Growth is the big thing. Marketing. I've got a marketing staff now that seems to be pretty good. Michael, my videographer, who does all my technical stuff and shoots all the blogs and the videos and commercials for clients and so on. Real sharp young man. Josh, who's my marketing manager, is just fabulous. He's told him from Paychecks there about 7-8 years ago, and he makes my life easy. They don't let me do payrolls anymore. I don't know the software anymore. We've changed, and so I still am the advisor, but I'm not the operations guy.
Makes sense. Well, that's good. It is the time. It is a time of growth, I think, for a lot of people off of this troublesome year,
Yes.
and then kind of feeling like maybe there's some stability coming back to the marketplace, especially now that the campaigns are over. People just people don't like things that are unknown, right? That's fear of the unknown just withholds people's forward movement in a lot of ways, or keeps them back. So now we've got some knowns, and I think that what we're seeing is that people are starting to kind of reinvest.
Change is a big block for a lot of people. They want change. They fear it. They don't know what's going to happen. The devil I know, then the devil I don't know. So I understand that, but there's one thing you can be certain of in business: it's going to change.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining me for Coffee with Humans. This has been enlightening and valuable, I think, for all of our viewers and listeners.
It's been fun, Jason. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Well, you and I will talk soon. Our viewers and listeners, thanks for joining us, and catch us next time. Coffee with Humans.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, The only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.